Iwo Jima can only be described as a nightmare in hell. We knew it was going to be tough, but little did we realize how tough. Today was D-Day. H-hour, boatswain, was expected momentarily.
Attention, all hands. Attention, all hands. Synchronize all watches and clocks. In 5 seconds, it will be 0650. In 5 seconds, it will be 0650. H-hour is at 0900. H-hour is at 0900. H-hour is at 0900. Number 5.
And while awaiting 0900, everybody was doing everything and anything.
Station 3.
Gun crews poured shells. Medical supplies for the 4th and 5th Marine Divisions were readied. Casualties from other ships were being received. We assisted ship's doctors. The fleet surgeon had just issued an order to all personnel of Medical Battalion 5th Amphibious Corps. That concerned me. Personnel of the 5th Medical Battalion will remain aboard during and after the H-hour landings until further notice. Subject battalion will, during this period, render all possible assistance to ship's medical units. Initial briefing will be held today at 1500, December 2nd, 1944. Initial briefing. Something was up. Ships to board, places to go, and so on. That was back at Pearl 2.5 months ago. Of course, we weren't told immediately it was going to be Iwo. As a matter of fact, most of us didn't know where we were going until we were well out at sea sometime later. It had been the same for Saipan. Staging began. Advanced precautions were routine. Inoculations, typhus, cholera, typhoid. Blankets were sprayed for protection against mites and lice. Great quantities of medical supplies were readied. A month and a half had passed since our first briefing. Final inspection was held. The occasion, embarkation. Destination, Iwo Jima. The convoy moved westward. Aboard, we spent our time in waiting.
You forgot to hand you the part. I didn't. No, someone's right.
Seaman first. Report to the quarterdeck on the double.
We were at sea several days when secret operational orders were broken out. Our CO passed on to us our plans for Iwo and approximate bivouac locations from which we would operate. Less than a day to Iwo. That afternoon we prayed. Half of these men were to be casualties. 1/4 were bowed in final worship.
Damage control body, report to your station. Damage control body, report to your station. Small boat crews, report to your station. Small boat crews, report to your station. All hands, man your battle station. All hands, man your battle station.
Medical units of the 4th and 5th Marine Divisions went in on D-Day. We expected to go in shortly thereafter, but due to fierce enemy resistance, it wasn't until D+7 that we loaded the LST alongside and disembarked for Iwo on D+8. From Mount Suribachi, the southeastern coast hummed with activity. Craft after craft were unloaded. Precious cargo of mercy nursed all the way from Pearl Harbor. Within the shadows of the hump and beneath a blanket of enemy shells as well as our own, operational quarters at Company A of our battalion set up shop. Approximately a mile and a half across Iwo, facing the west coast, Companies B and C joined hands and functioned as one unit. "2,200 yards north, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Marine Divisions, comprised of 60,000 men, were pitched in grim battle. Casualties soared to 1,000 a day. Company 8 men attached to the front line rendered immediate first aid, then marked the location of the casualty, making it easier for litter bearers to find him. The trouble with being an 8-man or litter bearer when the air's full of lead is that you have to stand when anyone with any sense is lying down and trying to disappear right into the earth. The first link in the chain of medical evacuation were the battalion aid stations, each consisting of 2 medical officers, 8 corpsmen, and 9 Marines. Operating in shell holes and similar depressions, the wounded were given emergency treatment. When enemy shelling became too intense, casualties and all were pinned down, waiting for a let-up that would permit ambulances to move once again. At night, the artillery was worse. The rain was worse. Flares undressed us. We lay in the hole and treated casualties under shaded flashlights. We saw shadows and heard sounds not there in the daytime. When dawn came, those of us who slept awoke swearing softly. Our bodies ached, and we groped for our can of cold rations. Even in the ghastliness and mess of the moment, there's a kind of thrill to be part of such a team. After receiving treatment at the aid station, casualties whose wounds were not serious were able to bypass rear medical units and were taken directly onto evacuation points. However, the majority of cases were not as fortunate. These were transferred in jeep ambulance to the medical company situated 1/2 to 1 mile behind the front lines. 20,000 casualties. 4,500 dead. As costly as Iwo was, we weren't entirely without some luck. Fortunately, this theater differed from many others in that we encountered no problems of insect-borne diseases, such as malaria or scrub typhus. No dank vegetation or soil to breed these insects. But to play safe and not chance any type of infection, we instituted and maintained a continuous program of preventive measures. Aircraft sprayed the entire area with DDT. This was the first time any such precaution was undertaken in the thick of combat. We avoided epidemics of dysentery and other diarrheal diseases by screening galleys and keeping cooking utensils and other mess equipment scrupulously clean, and by constant check and supervision of water distillation by the medical department. This elaborate unit was practically our main source of fresh water, Iwo having none, and what we brought in by ship was exhausted in time. And the spraying of 25,000 dead Japs with penite. The high standard of sanitation maintained on the island with the enforcement of rigid rules and frequent inspections was indicated by the fact that there were no outbreaks of disease. From the great universities and hospitals of America, from small and big-time practice, from the Navy's medical schools and from industry, came the men, the equipment, the supplies that made possible the survival of 98% of Iwo's wounded.